Good evening, everybody. Welcome to First Church, First Church of Religious Science, New York, and welcome to our Louise Hay class. I'm sure most of you, since you've signed into a self-healing class, have seen the book You Can Heal Your Life before. Louise Hay was a student of Raymond Charles Barker, who was the first pastor here. That's where she really got a lot of her inspiration, was from Raymond Charles Barker, and I think also Stuart Grayson and the Science of Mind textbook itself. So let us begin. I want to say also, we have many people that are watching us now on different platforms, and you may be watching us a few days from now or the end of the week. And if you're able to tune in on Thursdays, New York time, I think we're Eastern Standard, then you'd have an opportunity to join in with us live. And then you're able to interact. We have a little bit of time after each lesson for some personal sharing. So we're glad you find us, however you find us, and we hope our message can be of help to you. It's getting out to many hundreds of people now, so we're really grateful. And so tune in if you can and when you can. And if you want to become a part of the center, send a message to Jimmy, and he will hook you up. So let's get into it. Tonight, the title of this lesson, we have different titles: Becoming the Gift, being the gift yourself. So I'm going to start with a little gratitude affirmation to bring us into a receptive place in consciousness. I know, as I center myself in calm and peace, that there's an energy here, and I can sense it. And I know it's within me, and it's all around me. And that this energy is with anyone who's with us now, or who's even joining us in the future. And it's a part of us, and it's gathering around us, and it stays with us. And as we center ourselves in this awareness, and we go within, we sense a gratitude for being alive and aware that this energy responds to all of us all the time. And let's imagine it going out from us now. You know, it's filling our heart and it's going out into the world. And your consciousness is a healing thing. This gratitude within us radiates out from us into the world in all directions, touching everyone, everywhere. And this very sense, this energy returns to me from all places, and there's a realization that we live, move, and we have our being in it. The more we can sense it and feel it, the more aware we are of it, the more gratitude we have. Tonight I want to say I'm grateful for the health that I have, and as I say that for myself, I say it for everyone. I'm grateful for my ability to see and hear and feel in all my senses. I'm grateful for my home, for our center, our friends and our family. I rejoice in their company. I say for myself and all of us, we're grateful for our talents, our abilities. We're grateful for whatever good that we have, knowing, you know, this appreciation of the many gifts that we have brings more of them to us. I declare that I live joyfully in the now, and I'm grateful for my past experiences, for each and every one of them have brought us to where we are now. I'm grateful for all of nature, and I'm grateful for every living thing. So tonight we start off with the idea of gratitude. We know that gratitude is causative in and of itself. So if you can bring yourself to be grateful, it's like you're causing a whole new reality to start within yourself. All thought is creative. So we hear that all the time. Louise Hay would have said in different writings, every thought I think is creating my future. So we want to think about that. We have power with our thinking. So again, good evening. Thanks for joining us. There's a passage from Ernest Holmes here. Ernest Holmes, of course, wrote the material in the book, The Science of Mind, which was the inspiration of, I think, just about all of Louise Hay's writings, and definitely for the book You Can Heal Your Life. Louise was our probably most famous practitioner at this particular center in New York, and so this has been a class I've been teaching since the late, I think it was 1987. It's probably the longest going class of her material, anywhere, I think in the country. So let's start out by knowing there's power for good, and it responds to us, and I bring into my experience everything that's necessary for its unfoldment. My happiness, my peace. I know there's power for good that enables me to help others and help the whole world. I say quietly to myself, there is one life, one energy, and it's good, and it's perfect, and it's in my life now. My heart beats perfectly with the pulsation of the universe, in serenity and peace. My whole physical being is filled with this divine energy. And let us know tonight if there's anything going on within ourselves or that does not belong there, anything that's causing you any trouble or any grievance, or anything that's not expansive. Let us collectively decide now in this gathering to lovingly release it or dynamically release it. So let's choose again to be in new moments, surrounded by people who appreciate us and doing the things that allow us to feel good. So as people are joining in, again, I want to say hi to all of you. Everything we do here at the center, and we have new activities starting in another week or two new spirit groups. Everything we're doing is about self-healing. And so we're going to do a group, I think, one group is going to be, I think for men, a men's group, men's issues. I don't know what it's called yet. They're kicking around different titles. But it's really about embracing ourselves and loving ourselves more and letting go of the things that get in the way. We envision doing another group perhaps for women if we find the right teacher. Our Sunday lessons are also to empower you and lift you up. And so all aspects of what our mission here is to help people let go of thought patterns that don't work, ideas and things, and to empower themselves. The question comes up in tonight's lesson is, what did Louise Hay really teach about self-healing? In short, the short answer is Louise stated that all healing is self-healing, and what she was getting at is, she was getting at trying to tell people that your thinking, your habituated thinking, is the thing that creates your life. I have a reverend friend from Florida, and she says, she said, Greg, I know Louise Hay would say every thought you think is creating your future, but she says, really what I think it is, it's the tendency of your thoughts. So there's probably some truth to that. If I tend to be a negative thinker, if I'm always looking for the other shoe to drop, or if I have a tendency to think the worst, or I'm always thinking, well, what's the worst can happen? See, if your thinking is always going along the lines of what can go wrong and what will go wrong, you don't realize it, but you're putting your energy right towards, that whole thing. I had a teacher years ago, Bill Tolliver, who used to say, we're not people who, there's people, if your consciousness is about ain't it awful, which is, if your consciousness is about what's awful and what's bad, and that's what you dwell on, you don't really realize it, but that's what you're going to draw to you because you're focusing on the negative side of life. And what we're teaching you here, also from Dr. Bill, was, we're teaching you here to learn how to be a lifter. And so what does that mean? The same person can use their power for good, to keep seeing what's possible and good, or they can go towards ain't it awful. From time to time you'll hear me talk about the character Chicken Little. Well, Chicken Little was the person who was constantly worrying. Always worrying. Excuse me, guys. I've had a technical thing here. So where do you put your energy? Are you putting your energy towards positivity or negativity. So this class, some have said, is an introduction to metaphysics. And that's true also. Someone who studies metaphysics is looking at the ideas of cause and effect. Because at some level, if you come into a class like this, you're starting to realize that I'm cause to my own experience. And it's important for me always to point out, that doesn't mean that anyone is ever suggesting you're to blame for anything. We're just talking about a process of life. If I'm doing Ain't It Awful and poor me, you know, what I don't realize what I'm doing is I'm creating a world that's going to be full of fear and doubt and insecurity. If I'm a lifter, if I'm starting to see good and God in every situation, then I'm creating a whole different reality. So when we learn to live the affirmative life that Ernest Holmes spoke of, and that Louise was teaching, all healing is self-healing, what you're really learning to do is get a handle on your thinking and your thoughts. And there's a whole body of thoughts that are, you know, lie beneath the surface for most of us that we've been nurturing for all our lives. And we come into our teaching and we start thinking positively, which is really good because we're using our power, you know, the power that we have to think positively, but we have to deal with that which is underneath. So we're caused through our own experience. What Louise was getting at is the tendency of our thinking is acted upon, and there's an expression, like attracts like. If I'm using my power in a negative way or just the opposite, if I'm using it in a positive way, life is going to respond either way. Life, or whatever your concept of God is or higher power, responds to you. So how to use your power? We might try love instead as the thought. Extending love from attitudinal healing was the idea. What would it be like if you were a love finder rather than a fault finder? What might it be like if we really give this teaching a go, if we really practiced it, if we practice being less critical of ourselves and others? Recently, there's been a lot of incidents on the news of people doing horrendous things to one another. I try not to watch it. It's been almost unavoidable the past week. And I'm saying it for everybody. People want to be current. So on the one hand, we're wanting to learn, you know, we're watching the news and all of that, but all this kind of negative messaging that we get on the news programs isn't nurturing. If we want our life to reflect states of consciousness such as peace, power, joy, happiness, if we really want that, then we should spend more time putting our energy on these ideas and look away from the other. And I know it's hard for many people to break the habit of looking at what's wrong and what's bad or what's missing or what's sensational and turning towards something more expansive or life-giving. Like we could put our attention on great music or being in nature or viewing art or meditating or journaling. We can put our attention to use in many positive ways. You know, if you start to do that, your life will start to shift. Tonight's lesson points out that people are evolving or evoluting all over the world. And I was taught when I was taking these classes years ago, none of us are in the same place that we were 5 or 10 years ago. Okay? You may not think that you've evolved, but you have. You are definitely more than what you were. You know more. You've had some very important life lessons. And people the world over have as well. And we are connected with every last one of them. The entire human family is evolving. The world is coming together. It's getting smaller in many ways. But not everyone is in a place where they realize what you on this call realize. See, if you're on this call, that means you're plugged in and you know on some level that you are one with life. You're learning that you're one with each of us, that there's not a spot where God is not. So namaste to everybody, which means I see the divinity in you. I recognize it. I know it is there. And you know it's in me, and we know it's in one another. So if you come together in a group like this, You guys are light years ahead of where a lot of people are in the world. A lot of people living in the world are living in a sense of separation, a sense of fear, and they're really pointing a finger at one another and all of that. So when you come into a teaching like this, you're healing your thoughts, you're waking up to the realization that there is one life, and that life is in each one of us. And you're also coming to the realization that you are creating your life. To be in a class like this would suggest that you have some awareness. And at least you're beginning to know you have power to use. So we come into a class like this, people are looking to improve their life and their circumstances. And you're drawn into this beautiful book called You Can Heal Your Life. It's always a relatively small group of people in the world that are doing this work, though. So it's the thing. I think of us as the very fortunate ones, because this work is inner work. People doing this work are about what people used to say. If you're about this work, this spiritual work, you're really doing what they used to say, your father's business. In other words, you're not getting caught up in all of the acting and reacting to everything. You become a little bit unflappable. People are doing crazy stuff, and it just doesn't interest you in the same way. You're learning to, go to a different tune, because it just doesn't interest you. You don't need to be correct. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to react. You've learned to let go more and more. And you're also in a place where you have released the need to judge people, because you clearly know that everyone's doing the best they can with the information that they have. So you become innocent of judgment. You're here to be a lifter, not a leaner. And you're evolving as you learn to love yourself, and you're stepping into a different realm where it's easier to forgive. You're coming to a place where you are understanding that people are in different places in their evolution. Again, we are caused to our own experience. That's pretty wonderful. It's pretty amazing. You'll hear me say that you are the most important person in the world, and that's really correct. But not everybody feels it. That is the work. That is our inner work, is to realize that you are really wonderful, to look yourself in the eye and in the mirror and say, I love you. Or as Louise Hay would say, I approve of you. I love, accept, and approve of you exactly as you are. Those are beautiful sentiments and words. And the thing is, if you really get to the point where you start to be able to do that, everything starts to shift and change. We have such a way of looking what's wrong with people in the world, and we don't realize that we're looking at life through our own lens. So when we really begin to love ourselves, everything starts to shift. So this is our inner work. This is our journey. We're really not focused on what other people are doing. If we're doing that, we're missing the whole point. The whole thing about metaphysics and learning to do this work is to look within. Spirit resides within you, wholly and completely, and each of you are an individualization of this, what we call God life, and you have power. And you have power you can use, and I think I say it every week. You are using this, you're using the power. You're either using it constructively, or you're learning to use it constructively, or you're using it destructively. If I keep on holding on to, say, anger or resentments or things that happened to me last week, last year, 10 years ago, and I can't get past the past, then I'm dragging it right into today. I have people here in the audience. Let's say if I had an old beef going on with somebody, if I don't learn to deal with that, let go of that, I'm never going to be able to experience that person in a new way. And Ernest Holmes was the founder of this, our teaching. And he said, we carry around these dead bodies, these ancient corpses. And I prefer to call it dead wood, but it doesn't really matter. If I'm carrying a bunch of stuff with me, and I see some of you on the call, I know you pretty well, and I'm just saying, if you're carrying around a lot of stuff, it's very difficult for you to be in a beautiful new moment. And the only person that can change that is going to be you. So we want to find ways to forgive. We look for ways to let go. And we want to understand it's not worth it to hold on to this stuff. And understand, we're brothers and sisters in spirit. We're all part of each other. And let it go. Because those of you who can, you're way ahead of the rest of us. We're hanging on to stuff. So that's our work. It's our inner work. It's our journey. And part of the journey, the spiritual journey, is to grow and to evolve personally. All of us have work to do on ourselves. So the first thing to remember, if you can, is to realize I am responsible for my own life. I'm responsible for my own thinking. And it's never too late to turn your day around. So all healing is self-healing. That's, or Ernest Holmes would say it probably in the late 20s or 30s, it's all done in consciousness. All your healing is done in mind. Then it's always going to start with ourselves and thoughts, the thoughts we're thinking. The weekly subjects we talk here are always tied to topics that are brought up in Louise Hay's writings. I remember long ago a passage from John where the suggestion was essentially, love one another as I have loved you. That's a timeless message for all of us. The message is very clear. There's a couple important points that magnify what Louise Hay taught in her workshops. First, there's an emphasis on loving yourself. And then after that, love others as yourself, because we're all part of this eternal stuff. There's one energy, and we are individualizations of it. Most of us have children, and most families were taught to love other people and help them if we can. So you probably got that message too. I missed out on the part of loving myself in the early years. In the old religions, people would say that you were made in the image and likeness of God. A more contemporary explanation would be that you are united and one with all of life. Each of you are individualizations of this creative energy. Each are one with it. You can't be separated from it. So when you came to Earth and you were born, it was a big deal, whether you know it or not. It was a spectacular event. There was no one in the world ever been like you before. In all the history of the world, there's never been another one like you. And so you're here to experience life and to learn and grow. And you have everything you need to be successful. So as these brilliant beings of light come in, there's a period, you come in, you're full of potential. And then you start learning all the things from your family, and the light becomes diminished a little, where the child learns of all the, what's wrong and what's wrong with them and all of that. And somewhere along the line, I learned that I was not as good as someone else, or not as good as someone in my family, and I learned about shame and learned about not being good enough and all of that, and I'm sure you got a version of the same thing. I also learned that I was a sinner, and I was supposed to help other people less fortunate, and I also learned that I was supposed to help people, and I was taught how it was done. This loving myself stuff I totally missed out on. In fact, as a child. So most of you didn't get a lot of that kind of nurturing. It wasn't emphasized too much. But it's always been there. It's been there for over 2,000 years. It was in the New Testament when it was said, love your brother, love your sister as yourself, right? I kind of missed out on that as yourself thing. So we're really trying to say, you can't really love your brother or sister until you love yourself. So the importance of this class is to not overlook the loving yourself part. It's been overlooked for a long time. Throughout my life, I've seen loads of well-intentioned people trying to help other people, and that's really been a beautiful thing. And I've worked myself in different capacities trying to help people, and I've witnessed people doing impossible things for other people, working lots of extra hours. And I remember most of us who were giving care were not really great at taking care of ourselves. So I was one of them for a while, and I realized as I got more involved with Louise Hay's work that you've got to take care of yourself if you want to really be good for others. So that was a piece for me. and from my colleagues also. So there needs to be love for you so you can really be the light and be the gift the world needs. There needs to be joy for you, peace for you, prosperity and positive expectancy for you too. So that's a little introduction. I want to just go to the book again, and then I'm going to have Jimmy come up here. Tonight he's facilitating. I have something pressing. Here we go. Let's go to a couple of the talking points, and then we'll open it up. When we really love ourselves, everything in our life works, Louise said. And again, whatever's going on with you right now, she said, release it, because it's only a thought you're having, and a thought can be changed. We must be willing to begin to learn to love ourselves. Self-acceptance, always, and self-approval in the now are the keys to all positive changes. So if you keep criticizing yourself, how do you think you can move forward? You can't, right? I love, accept, and approve of myself exactly as I am. We create every so-called illness in our body. So if you want to have health and you want to not have dis-ease, then you start really thinking positive thoughts. I remember reading books when I was studying this material years ago. People would start watching comedies, they would start meditating, they would just find different ways to give themselves more positive messages, more approving messages. Every thought we think is creating our future. And then this ties into something I shared earlier. The point of power is always in the present moment, okay? So if any of us are holding on to anything, that our husband did or girlfriend did or parents have done, and if we can't be present in the moment, you can't even be in a conversation with them, because to be in the present moment, you have to be here now. That was a book by Ram Dass, you might remember, Be Here Now. You've got to be fully here. You're not distracted with your texting, not distracted with what's on TV, but fully present and without a story. So how do we get there? How do we heal our life? Well, you do it one day at a time. You do it one moment at a time. You learn to be the guardian at the gate. That's a saying that came from Florence Scovel Shinn, I believe. You have the power to say yes and no to all kinds of things in your life. So you have executive power. You get to decide yes or no to what you're thinking, what you're entertaining. Spirit is always attempting to get your attention. Spirit is always wooing you for you to step forward. And if you listen to it, and you will. So I've been presenting this class for so many years. Different people have taught me, when a negative thought comes in, you say stop. You say next. Stop in the name of love. You invoke Diana Ross. Just stop, 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 stop. And neutralize the negative thought that you're having and replace it with something that's positive and life-giving and celebratory. As you begin to get a handle on your own thoughts and replace the negatives, neutralize them with the positives, there will be a quickening that will happen for you. And what will start to happen is your world will reflect your new thinking. So everything that happens with any of this material is a result of your thinking and your thought processes. Again, as Louise Hay would say, it's only a thought, and a thought can be changed. So usually what I ask every Thursday is, what's it like being you? And the reason I ask that question is, if I can develop the habit of monitoring my inner dialogue, that's really the best predictor of what the rest of my week is going to be and my month is going to be like. So I want to start to get a handle on my thinking, and so I can start making corrections and lovingly change that dialogue around to make it more positive. And so that's a good question for everybody to think of. What's it like? What's my dialogue like? You know, we can dress up, we can look a certain way to people, but what's it really like being you? And I don't ask that question for anybody to be hard on ourselves, but just to be honest. And because maybe you can lift it up a little bit and be to yourself, like Jennifer was saying earlier, that kinder to yourself. It's really would be a wonderful thing if we could start loving ourselves more and lift up that conversation with the most important person in our world. So tonight we gather. Let's center ourselves in this divine activity and knowing that we are one with this creative intelligence, this energy. We can say, there's not a spot where God is not. We live, we move, we have our being in this divine substance. And each of us are one with it. Each of us have power. There's intelligence. There's life. And I acknowledge that life is responding to each and every one of us. In this consciousness tonight, I say that there's a pattern of health and there's a pattern of prosperity and opportunity and wholeness that's in operation in our lives right now in all of our affairs. And I know each of us walk away tonight feeling in some way lifted, uplifted, supplied, and supported. For we are each one with the one, and we have everything we need. And we close knowing once again, that we are completely supplied and supported right now. And so it is. Thank you, everybody.